So, Eric, do you want to join my peg party that I'm having tonight?
You're talking about peggle and not pegg-ing, right?
Yeah, totally. For sure. Because today we're going to be talking about Peggle.
2.
Or specifically Peggle 2.
Peggle 2.
But I'm going to do the history over all of Peggle.
Yeah, that's
so
fine.
It's going to be peggerific.
Lots of pegging in this episode.
Oh, yeah.
So I hope you're into it.
All right. Well, this is Press Any Button, not Peg Any Button. And I'm Nikki.
I'm Eric.
And today we're talking about Peggle and Peggle 2.
So in case you didn't know, Peggle 2 is a casual puzzle game developed by PopCap Games and published by Electronic Arts. The goal of Peggle 2 is not to peg, believe it or not. It is to clear all 25 orange pegs from the board with 10 balls to shoot from with a cannon at the top of the screen.
Wow.
Very simple game.
Eric, what's pegging? We keep making these jokes and I have no idea what it is.
I feel like that's for a different podcast.
All right. So you ready to get into it?
Yeah. So, Nikki, you got a good history of Peggle for us?
Oh, yeah. I was able to find a good bit of information. Peggle's been around for a while, so you ready to learn all about it?
Yeah. I've been ready.
All right. Well, strap in because we're going to go back all the way to the beginning. Like I said, I want to do the history of all Peggle instead of just Peggle 2 because I figure we probably won't do any more episodes on any of the other Peggle games, so we're going to start from the beginning. Peggle was originally envisioned by PopCap's studio director, Sukhbir Sidhu, who was inspired by pachinko machines. Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Pachinko? However, he recognized that pachinko was mostly luck-based and would not translate well into a video game. So after seeing a 2D game engine created by PopCap programmer Brian Rothstein, Sidhu was able to realize the game and worked with Rothstein for the first 5 months of its development before bringing in additional programmers. So Sidhu kind of had this idea of a game but wasn't sure how to bring it to life until he saw this game engine that his fellow coworker created. And then they kind of started working on it together, just the two of them for the first 5 months.
So was he already working at PopCap Games at that point?
Yeah, both of them. Sidhu was a studio director and Rothstein was a programmer at PopCap.
Yeah, and it makes sense that it's kind of based on pachinko because that's always what I thought of whenever I saw it.
That and like pinball. It kind of reminds me of pinball
too,
with
like
balls and like
an upside down pinball or something.
Kind of. So the first Peggle game came out February 2007.
Yeah, that's a while back.
Yeah. While originally sales were poor,
Dang.
it quickly skyrocketed following the inclusion of Peggle Extreme, which is a free spin-off game, non-canon. But
it's not canon?
It's not canon.
I mean, you still have the canon though, right?
Yeah. But once Peggle Extreme came out on the video game software for the Orange Box, do you know what that is?
Yeah, it was like a 3 or 4 games, I think.
Yeah, I think it had like Portal, Half-Life
2, I think. And
then Team Fortress 2.
Yeah, so those 3 games, and I guess you also got
Peggle Extreme. That's kind of an odd combination, but I mean, I get the other 3, but Peggle kind of doesn't really fit in with the other games, but anyways.
Yeah, I don't know, you're kind of getting a good variety of different stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, kind of sounds cool, but the Orange Box went on to sell more than 50 million downloads by 2009, so that really like kicked Peggle up a notch in popularity, that like a lot of people that probably wouldn't necessarily play Peggle ended up getting it, with that bundle. And so it kind of took off, you know? And in 2008, Peggle Knights was released as a follow-up to Peggle. And also, I will mention that sometimes I hear the original Peggle called Peggle Deluxe, and sometimes just Peggle. So I'm just going to call it Peggle, but,
yeah,
you know, sometimes people call it Peggle
I think
Deluxe,
maybe it was
but,
re-released later as Peggle Deluxe.
Yeah. Anyways, in 2008, Peggle Knights was released as a sequel. I don't know why they didn't call that one Peggle 2, but here we are with more complicated timelines of games because they like choose weird titles.
I played Peggle. I played Peggle 2, but I've never actually played Peggle Knights.
Peggle Knights.
Yeah, it feels like it's the off-sexual brand.
Yeah. While Peggle Knights featured new levels and additional mechanics, most of the gameplay and presentation remained the same, which, you know, garnered different responses from critics. As you can imagine, like, everyone wants the next game to be the perfect match of the same but different, right?
Yeah, the
so
same,
you're not
but
gonna like please everybody.
Yeah.
But I guess a lot of the critics were saying that this is like a little bit too much, just like the first one, you know?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so after Peggle Knights, this is kind of fun. Peggle World of Warcraft Edition was released as a mini game that you could get in World of Warcraft.
That's cool.
That's another free spin-off game that's not canon.
So Peggle Extreme and then Peggle World of Warcraft.
Yeah, the free spin-off ones, whatever, they don't count, you know, as canon. But I don't know. It's like Peggle. There's not that much story
I was about to say,
anyways, so.
what story are we talking about when it comes to Peggle?
But anyway, that served as a cross-promotional installment, you know, for Peggle and World of Warcraft, which I think is another really interesting, like, crossover of fans, you know?
Combining
like,
Peggle with games that have nothing to do with Peggle at all.
Yeah, it's super interesting, and I like kind of want to play the World of Warcraft edition. It's only 10 levels and 10 challenges, but I'm pretty sure it probably looks cool.
That's funny.
Yeah. So that's 2009. We don't really hear anything from Peggle for about 2 years, and then they start coming up with a new game that they want to release with Xbox One. So the new game would be, what are you thinking?
Peggle 2.
Peggle 2, which is actually Peggle 3, really.
So they really wanted to go to the extreme with the graphics.
Yes.
And all the stuff for the Xbox One.
Yes.
Which, okay, right.
Yeah. So they didn't start production of Peggle 2 until spring of 2012 because there was a lot of debate within on like if it would be a freemium game, and if so, how would microtransactions work, and all this stuff. So they eventually decided not to go with that, thank God. But it did, you know, that at the beginning that kind of delayed things getting started for a minute, because you definitely need to know if it's going to be freemium when you're designing the game.
Yeah.
Because you have to think about all the, you know, microtransactions
and I feel like
whatnot.
designing it for Xbox One and going the freemium route probably wouldn't work together.
Yeah, probably not.
Because, you know, you think freemium, you think of like your phone, you think of a tablet. You don't really think of like a next gen console. Like, oh yeah, freemium.
Yeah, not usually.
Well, I take that back.
I mean, sometimes, but
there's like Fortnite and Apex Legends, and those are technically freemium.
Yeah. So eventually Microsoft and EA end up partnering together to develop Peggle 2, at the time to be an exclusive for Xbox One. In 2011, EA bought PopCap.
Oh, okay.
So
that's
like
really
PopCap, EA, Microsoft, and I think some other smaller like companies too that also are involved. So
2011 is when the downward spiral started.
I guess so.
That's mostly what I was curious about. But.
Yeah. So for Peggle 2, it's kind of funny. The person that they chose to be the lead level designer had never worked on any Peggle games before, but they said that Peggle was their favorite game. So that's how they got the job. So Sylvan Dombrowski, hopefully I said that right. He worked at Harmonix, which is one of the game's smaller developers, And it's just funny because what I found was like he admitted to Peggle being his favorite PopCap game. Therefore, he was hired as lead level designer for
sense,
Peggle 2. Yeah. In September 2012. So, with no experience making Peggle maps before, he studied the levels of previous Peggle games for weeks before beginning the level designs for Peggle 2. And as he described, one major lesson in creating the levels was you have to diagonally stagger the pegs if you want them to fall and keep bouncing. Big drains where the ball just falls and doesn't bounce back up are not fun.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
I agree. Yeah. I mean, to me, I don't think designing the Peggle levels is all that complicated. So just bringing in a complete outsider to do it doesn't seem like that big a deal, especially if they're passionate and they go back and look at the previous designs and all that stuff.
I don't know. I feel like it looks like it's not complicated, but then when you actually probably go to make the levels and you're playing it, it probably is more complicated than it looks to make the bounces more random and stuff,
Yeah.
I don't know. It might be harder than it appears, is all I'm saying.
To place the pegs in the right spots to make random bounces kind of happen.
Yeah, but also to keep it interesting and, all this other stuff.
And to keep the challenge level up.
Yeah. Steve Notley, who worked on prior Peggle games, also helped Dombrowski with the levels in Peggle 2. So he wasn't totally alone. He had someone there with some experience, but for some reason they didn't make Steve lead level designer. They let Dombrowski do it. So,
yeah, it's interesting. I guess maybe they're like, we're tired of your levels. Let's bring in someone new.
Yeah,
fresh blood.
Yeah. So Peggle 2 was released December 9th, 2013 for Xbox One. But then later in 2014, it was released for Xbox 360 and PlayStation 4.
What?
Yeah.
They had the ability to bring that graphic juggernaut back to Xbox 360.
Yeah.
Incredible.
And then also in 2014, Peggle Blast was added to the franchise as a mobile game. Which is actually, Peggle Blast is how I learned about Peggle. Like, I played the game, the phone game first, back in probably 2014, 2015. And I thought it was really fun. And then I was telling you about it, I think, and you're like, yeah, you can play that on Xbox and stuff too. I was like, what?
Yeah. So, yeah, I got kind of mixed feelings about the phone game. It's, it's got all the predatory freemium stuff.
Yeah. But I didn't buy anything, and I've played it and beat it and thought it was fine.
Yeah. And
it's pretty old at this point, almost 10 years.
And
but
also, for whatever reason, once they made Peggle Blast, they decided that they were never going to do another Peggle game again.
I guess.
Which I don't get, because I feel like there are still likely fans of the franchise out there. Oh,
yeah, for sure.
I feel like it's just buried in Electronic Arts catalog, and they're like, well, this isn't going to make us billions of dollars, so we don't really care that much about it, so we're not going to do anything with it.
Boo.
Which is part of the downward spiral, as I was talking about.
Yeah. So to recap real quick, I just want to go through all the Peggle games in order. So the first one you have is Peggle or Peggle Deluxe, which came out in 2007. And then Peggle Extreme, which also came out in 2007.
But that was more of a demo, right?
That was more of a one-off. Then you have Peggle Nights, 2008. Then you had the Peggle WoW Edition in 2009. And then you have Peggle 2 in 2013 and Peggle Blast in 2014.
Yeah, so they were...
And it's been crickets ever since.
Ever since. They have been sitting on that IP just forever.
Is it ever since or ever since?
Ever since.
Oh, yeah, man. I always get stuff wrong like that. Whatever.
Yeah, so then they just decided that maybe Peggle Blast didn't make enough money for them, and then they were like, well... doesn't really make sense to pump up the graphics and put it on next-gen consoles, so we're just not going to do anything with it.
Lame. We need a new Peggle game.
Yeah, I agree.
I need a peg party in my life.
Oh, man. How many times can we make that joke?
Oh, man. Forever. Never gets old. So, Eric, are you ready for some fun facts?
Fun facts? Yeah. Let's do some fun facts.
Actually, I couldn't find that many fun facts, unfortunately. I know. So sad.
Do you just start, like, facts about pegging?
Oh, God, no. I'll be traumatized. But we'll start with this one I did find was really fun. For Peggle 2, lead artist Drew Robertson went for a more beautiful look. A decision
More beautiful look.
Yeah, a decision inspired by listening to some of the game's orchestral pieces that were completed before art production began. He described his stylistic influences as a mixture of Disney films and campy science fiction flicks. The power-ups in particular were inspired by traits of the characters in this type of media, such as the Yetis dancing being based on the dancing hippos from Fantasia, which came out in 1940.
That's cool.
And Luna's power-up being inspired by Lydia from Beetlejuice.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
I was like, I definitely see the mixture of like Disney and science fiction.
Yeah. The characters in the art is always something that kind of stood out about this game.
Oh, yeah. It's one of the best things about it. Very cool character designs and just super colorful, fun to look at. Fun fact number 2. So I'm going to let you guess first, though.
Okay.
So, Eric, what do you think is the world record for most points scored in one shot for any Peggle game?
Any Peggle game.
One shot. What do you think is the
Jeez.
most points anyone's ever gotten from one shot on
Because I
Peggle?
think the scoring can be pretty different between the different games. So just based on that fact, I'm going to put it in the 10 million range.
Ooh, 10 million. Close. That's low, though.
I'm going to say 20 million.
Ooh, very close. 23.66 million.
Wow. Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to have you watch the video of this guy getting this many points, Eric.
Wow. So that's on the original Peggle, right?
Yeah, OG Peggle right there. So you kind of have this like formation of the pegs, and there's sort of like a DNA
strand, and they're moving, and they're just kind of like slowly, it gets kind of inside of it, and it just kind of slowly pushes the ball up so it hits every single peg.
But the way he hit it off the wall, and then he had to bounce it off the bumper catcher basket, whatever you call it, and up into it. It was pretty nuts.
Yeah.
Well, his YouTube name is IWGLWSSS. I don't think that spells any words, so I don't know. But yeah, he scored that many points in one shot, and he has another video where he scored 20 million, but then he broke his own record. But that was all the way back in May 2011. So
dang,
for 12 years, like, no one's beaten it since, or from what I can tell, really tried or anything. So
dang, that's kind of surprising.
Yeah.
I know there are speed runs of Peggle.
Yeah.
What's the world record for Peggle 2? I was curious.
For Peggle 2?
Yeah. Like, what's just like the any % the fastest you can do it?
I think it's 1 hour and 58 minutes.
Yeah, that sounds right.
That's from 4 years ago on PS4, and it's Enunileer. I don't know. I'm not going to be good at pronouncing people's great names.
So it's roughly a 2 hour speed run.
Roughly.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, because all the top speeds are like, the highest one is 3 hours and the lowest one is 1 hour 58 minutes. So probably most of them are in the 2 hour range. So I thought it would be faster than that. I don't know why. I just thought someone would probably find a glitch or something.
I think it's just all the mandatory screens you kind of have to go through.
Yeah, that's true.
It kind of slows it down. Just like every time you're watching your score tick up, you probably want as low a score as you can possibly get, just
that's
so
true.
It doesn't take as much time to tick up that high.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, and all the characters have their little dances and like all that stuff that goes on. So that's all I got for the fun facts.
Cool.
But yeah, Peggle. Cool history, bro.
Yeah, good job. All right, so you want to talk about the story and the canon? Because I was curious. You kept saying canon that whole history, and what is the canon of Peggle?
I have no idea.
Are the pegs some kind of evil, like infection, or some kind of alien, or that you have to eradicate? Like, is it more Dr. Mario style?
So when you were playing the game, did you not notice like what the story was, Eric?
I mean, I just didn't think there was a story, honestly.
Because there's really not one.
Okay.
Let's see. Yeah, there's like pretty much no story that I can really find. I mean, you could probably make up your own like story that you think's happening.
Yeah, definitely the pegs represent some kind of evil alien force that you're trying to destroy.
The only character that comes back is Bjorn the unicorn.
It's because the other ones died fighting.
Yes, definitely.
That makes perfect sense. And also probably because Bjorn is kind of like the spokesperson or the mascot of the franchise, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's like on the cover and everything.
Yeah.
Wow, in-depth story there.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about pros?
Yeah. Let's get into the pros and cons. So my first pro is the different ball masters are all fun and have fun powers. You know, Bjorn gives you the extra bounce information. Jeff has the giant boulder. Berg freezes the pegs and causes the round ones to slide. Norman has the volt that hits 2 other pegs every time you hit a peg. And
Yeah,
Luna,
I like his.
Luna's power temporary brings back all the blue pegs and allows the ball to kind of fall through them and only bounce on the orange pegs. So I was going to ask...
Yeah, it kind of turns the blue pegs to ghosts.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, who is your favorite one just like to use in general?
I like Norman. I like his voltage power-up thing. I feel like it's the most helpful.
Yeah.
As far as like getting quantity.
Yeah,
of
if
pegs.
you're trying to clear the pegs, definitely Norman. Who do you feel like? Which one is probably your least favorite to use?
Probably Berg, because his power-up only moves the round pegs.
Yeah.
And so in Peggle you have round pegs and you kind of have these rectangle curved pegs.
Yeah.
So like for his, I feel like it's not as helpful on a lot of the maps. You know?
But for those rectangular pegs, like if you hit one of those, you hit the 2 beside it too.
Yeah.
It's kind of like
Norman's
yeah.
vault. You know, it does that too. So
I feel like whenever I use Berg, like I tend to hit one of the round pegs, and then the ball doesn't bounce as much, so it just kind of falls straight through.
Yeah. And there is 2 other ball masters as well that you can get with DLC. There's Wendy. She's a fairy flock. She transforms boring blue pegs into pretty pointy purples. So I guess you would be able to get like a lot of points with her because the purple ones like give you extra bonus points. And then you have Jimmy Lightning, who is, if you notice in the second round of levels, you have that beaver that kind of skates on the bridges and stuff.
Yeah.
That's him. That's Jimmy Lightning.
Yeah, he was in the first game too, I think, right?
Maybe. I don't know if I played the first Peggle actually.
Okay.
But his power is multi-ball, and it throws 2 other balls into the mix, I guess, when you do one ball.
That's cool. I kind
of we didn't get either of the DLC players.
Yeah,
characters.
To me,
whatever,
well, we'll go into cons in a little bit where I can talk about that. But okay, so what's a pro you got?
Okay. So I have a lot of pros. I love the colorful design. I love the like storybook kind of illustration characters. It kind of takes me back to like when I was a kid. I was obsessed with Lisa Frank. And if you don't know who Lisa Frank is, you weren't a little girl in the 1990s and early 2000s. But she does these like super uber cute, super bright, colorful pieces of art. And while this game isn't quite as extreme as Lisa Frank, it definitely has like a cool, fun feel that's I really like.
Okay.
I'm drawn to colorful things. Obviously, I have a new hair color every year or so. I have really colorful tattoos. Like Eric, my engagement ring is sapphire. So I like colorful stuff.
Yeah, I like color too. Yeah, the art and the sound effects are great. I like Jeff's goat. Jeff's
oh my gosh.
goats. Like
yes.
You have to do something good and you'll hear that scream.
And it'll just open its mouth and you see its tongue like,
yeah. Also,
there's a lot of funny jokes and stuff in this game for sure.
Yeah, also like Luna's floating hairpiece, which I always thought that was a nice touch.
Yeah, I like how her jaw falls off when you do something really cool. She's like literally jaw dropping and her jaw drops off. I also like when you beat the level with Berg and he turns around and does a dance and they like censor out his booty.
Oh yeah, he does a booty dance.
Yeah.
Is it Berg a he or a she, or doesn't really matter?
I don't know.
I always thought Berg was female, but
Berg is a Yeti. Berg's power, I don't see any pronouns really used for Berg.
Gotcha.
Berg is non-binary, I'm going to say.
Fair enough. So, yeah, I always thought the physics were really great in this game. Like, it's just so satisfying. You know, the ball, like, feels like it bounces really well, like, especially if it hits a bumper or something like that.
Mm-hmm. It's like a really good mix of skill and luck.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. Because there's definitely some skill involved. Mm-hmm. But after that second or third bounce, it's like, all right,
it's like, I couldn't have predicted that.
You don't really know where it's going to go after that.
Yeah.
Unless you're doing like a slide or something.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah, I love all the different characters in the game, all the ball masters, and how they like all have their own music and their own power-ups and their own kind of like emotion, I guess, you know?
Oh, yeah.
I think they did a good job of like coming up with a bunch of like distinct different characters. None of them are similar whatsoever, so.
Yeah, and the music all feels good and different for each character.
Yeah, speaking of music, the music for this game is amazing. I love it so much.
Yeah, it's like, it's a lot of classical music, but they've kind of modernized it and remixed it a little bit.
Yeah, it's like every song you're like, I know this song, but this is a more upbeat, fun version of it.
Yeah, there's one track, I'm going to save it for the cons, but yeah, for the most part, the music is outstanding. So for me, like the difficulty curve is really good in this game. You start with Bjorn, who is great for beginners since his power shows you how the ball is going to bounce like off the first peg.
Yeah, his is kind of like this rainbow line that will come out of the ball to show you like where it's going to bounce and ricochet. So like you can kind of plan your shots better. Yeah, it definitely helps you get a good idea of like where the ball's going to go if you hit it at like certain points.
Yeah, and I feel like his power is one of the best ones to start off with because then you start to develop that feel after.
And I never went back and used him again. So like once you get through all the levels, you can play them again and you can pick which ball master you want to play with.
Yeah.
And I hardly ever would go back to him unless there was some like really tricky balls that you needed to get like under
tricky pegs.
A barrier or something.
Yeah.
But most of the time I didn't use him anymore.
Yeah, I was the same way. There are other better powers. And then, so yeah, he's a great one to start off with. And then I feel like Luna is a great one to end with. Mm-hmm. I mean, her sets of stages aren't the last stages, but I feel like she has kind of the hardest power to master because, yeah, your ball will basically pass through all the blue ones and it will only bounce on the orange ones.
Yeah.
So
the developers said that they moved Luna to the end for that reason because her power up was the hardest one to kind of like master. And so I think they did a really good job of like progressing the ball masters and the levels too, because you start out pretty basic, just round pegs, and then you end up with pegs that you have to hit twice before they'll break, and like just like circles, and then you'll move on to like moving pieces, sections of pegs that are rotating and whatnot. So yeah, I think I agree with you on that for sure.
Yeah, just in the stage design too, I agree. Yeah, that the stages do progress in a really good way.
Yeah, this game is really addictive.
Yeah.
It's really fun and addictive. It's simple. I love a good, simple game. Not every game needs to have like 28 layers to it,
Yeah, I agree.
This is definitely a fun one. You can play with like your family. Kids can play this. Adults can play this. Like,
yeah, it's a pretty low bar to learn how to play it.
Even if you don't know how to play it, like even if you're a little kid, like if you're playing with like a little kid and they were just shooting the ball out, odds are they're gonna hit something, and they're gonna have fun watching it bounce all around.
Yeah, sometimes just the simple fun idea just makes for such a great game. And that's one of the reasons I'm kind of a little bit upset with EA for just sitting on this franchise and not doing anything with it.
Yeah, come on, Peggle.
So, do you have any more pros?
No, but I did want to share with you that I found, and this has nothing to do with pros or cons.
Okay.
But when I was trying to look up stuff for like the future or whatever, I found a roguelike version of Peggle that was described as Peggle and Slay the Spire together. And it's called Peggle-ing. And I feel like you should play it, Eric.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that sounds right up my alley.
Yeah. We'll definitely have to play that sometime. It looked funny.
Nice.
All right, so do you want to move on to cons?
Sure. So what's the con you got?
I don't really have any cons.
What? You gotta have a con.
Not that this game is I don't know. I don't want to say it's perfect. It's not perfect, but I can't really think of anything that I hate about the game either, maybe it gets a little repetitive.
Yeah,
but not really.
So that was my first one. Yeah, gameplay can get a little bit repetitive, especially if you get stuck on a level or get stuck trying to do an optional objective like one of the mini ones you gave me.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you're not trying to do all that, though.
Yeah, and the one thing...
I don't think it was that repetitive. I'm just being a little nitpicky.
Yeah, me too. And honestly, the one thing that helps it not be as repetitive is just the fact that the pegs are randomized each time.
Yeah.
So each time you play a level, all the orange pegs are randomized. The purple peg is randomized each shot. Mm-hmm. The green pegs are randomized. So it is you get different luck, I guess, just in where they're at. So probably my biggest con about this game is everything about hitting the winning shot gets pretty stale pretty quickly, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
But
how it does all the slow-mo zoom in.
Yeah, all the stupid bells and whistles. You have the dramatic zoom in on the ball hitting the final peg. Everything turns into slow motion while you watch your ball take just way too many bounces to fall into one of those freaking score buckets. You have to listen to the same track every time, and then you have to sit and wait while your score very slowly adds up. It wouldn't be so bad if there's just a way to fast forward through it, or just to skip, or just hit the start button and skip and get your score, so you didn't have to watch it every single time.
That's true. I was trying to skip it at some points, and it was no, you have to watch this, and I'm okay, well, fine. It kind of reminds me of the graphics and stuff you get when you're playing a slot machine in Vegas, you know?
Yeah. It's really cool to see it for the first few times, and you're like, oh man, this is amazing. And then by the 100th time, you're like, God, please stop.
Okay, I get it.
Yeah,
this
I get
is
it.
Quote unquote epic,
Yeah. And it's the same reaction if your score is 100,000 or 1,000,000,
Yeah.
So my final con is I feel like this game was a little bit too short to have paid DLC. There are only 5 ball masters. That sounds so weird saying that.
Yeah.
In the base game, and then you have 2 more you can purchase to unlock. It feels kind of unnecessarily greedy to me. I mean, the first game had 10 masters, and none of them were DLC.
Yeah.
So then it feels like a step back. You're going to 5 masters and then locking 2 of them as extra paid content.
Yeah, true.
I don't know. And then
they should have just had it where you could unlock it by getting so many points or something. And
then they went the full freemium model with Peggle Blast, which, it's great in the sense that it lets people have access to the game that wouldn't normally have access to it. But then you also just fill it up with the predatory stuff. It gets pretty annoying.
Yeah, all the ads and everything.
You want to get into strategy?
Yeah. Well, the first obvious one is try to time the power-ups, for when you really are going to need them. And, also, different ball masters power-ups are better for different kind of level setups and things like that.
Some of those power-ups you want to get almost immediately, and then others you want to kind of save towards the end. I always feel like Luna's is one of the better ones towards the end. Same thing with Bjorn, where you're just trying to pick out the orange pegs at the very end.
Yeah. But if you're with Berg, it's the more, the better, almost.
The earlier, the better?
Yeah. Yeah, the more pegs that are left, the better.
Oh,
that you can hit.
Yeah, same thing with Norman.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's going to bounce off. It has more stuff to bounce off of.
Yeah, exactly.
So one of mine is getting free balls is pretty important.
Yeah.
And the two ways to earn free balls are by landing the ball in the moving bucket at the bottom of the screen and by hitting a specific single shot score threshold.
Uh-huh.
It's always great when you can get both and you end up with more balls than when you started with.
Yeah.
Hitting the score threshold is much easier later in the level when the multiplier has been built up by clearing most of the orange pegs. When you build up the multiplier to like X10, that's usually when it's a good time to start aiming for the purple pegs to try to get your score as high as possible to get those free balls.
Yeah.
Because once it's 10x, you only really have to hit the purple peg and like 4 other pegs for a free ball.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the free balls definitely come in handy.
Yeah.
And didn't you also find a hack that if you like aimed at the very corner of a peg that it would like go through instead of bouncing off or something?
Yeah, that was
like,
actually
aim it right into the basket.
If you actually did the skill things, you actually do that. They show you how to do that.
So it's not a hack.
It's not really a hack. In fact,
I thought you found a cheat.
No,
like
you
glitch.
should have gone through all the skill challenges because they really go through some of the skill shots that you're supposed to be able to do.
Yeah, I should have done more of that. It's too much like a tutorial. You know me. I'm a rebel about the tutorials.
Yeah, some of the challenge stuff can feel a little tutorial-y. I don't think that's a word.
It is now. Really, I don't know. This game's a lot of luck, a little bit of skill, I feel like it's more skill. I don't know. It edges to me more on the skill side. Yeah.
Maybe in the beginning it's more luck, but like towards the end of a level, you definitely get those skill shots where you're trying to graze or you're trying to bounce in a particular way.
Yeah.
Especially when you're just trying to like hit a peg and then hit the ball in the bucket or something like that. Those are very much skill shots.
Yeah.
I feel like the skill level on this game is very, very high, but to get started on it is very low.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think my skill level ever got that high.
Yeah.
But, I did good enough. I beat the game. It was fine. I had fun.
And that's...
didn't get as many of the extra things as you, the extra challenges. But
the extra optional challenges,
yeah.
Or objectives.
They're optional for me, but not for you.
Clearly. Yeah, I do feel like one of the great things about this game is that it is very accessible, very easy to get into it.
Yeah. And like our friend Brittany said the last episode, this is definitely a game, too, that you can just pick up, play, put down. You don't have to play it for any certain amount of time.
Oh, yeah.
Very casual game.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Any other strategy stuff?
Nah, I don't think so.
Pretty much my only 2 points were the ones you brought up and I brought up.
Were you able to find anything about the future?
So the only thing I wrote for the future was I feel like the freemium model ruined the franchise because now there are no more games.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't really find anything. Like, come on, EA. Let's give us a Peggle 3.
Yeah, just make a regular game. It doesn't have to be a freemium game.
All right. So, Eric, did you get all those optional challenges? All 120 of them?
Yeah, I did. I ended up probably getting around 130, I think.
Wow, overachiever.
And I think there's
like 180 or
there's actually
overall.
Actually, I feel like there's a lot more I didn't get. And there are definitely some where, man, this is a really tough optional challenge I would get stuck on.
So at least that gives you like a little bit more like gameplay time if you're trying to get all these optional challenges.
Yeah.
Like, it's a little something extra you can play the game to try to accomplish.
Yeah, and it was still fun. Like I definitely still enjoyed doing the extra challenges and stuff, and I would get a little bit stuck sometimes, but it wasn't too bad.
Yeah. So I guess it's your turn to pick the next game.
Yeah, and I'm kind of coming out of left field with this one.
Oh, okay.
There's an entire genre of games we have not even touched on.
What? I thought we pretty much have done everything.
Yeah.
We've done sports, action, platforming, puzzle. I mean,
I'm
music.
curious.
Like, we've done everything.
I'm actually curious if you've actually even ever played a game from this genre.
I mean, the odds are high that I probably haven't.
Okay, so have you ever heard of a clicker game?
A clicker game?
Yeah.
Is that kind of like Flappy Bird or something? Where you're just like, pressing the same button over and over again to kind of get through a level?
Clicker games kind of end up as resource management. It's like you'll have a button and you'll click it, and then, you get so many resources, and you'll keep clicking the button, and you'll, every time you click something, you'll get resources. And
what? I'm so confused already.
So the games I can think of, like the good clicker games, would like you think of like Candy Box 2, Cookie Clicker. So yeah,
never heard of any of those games.
Okay, so we're going to be playing a clicker game.
Okay. My fingers are going to get really tired from clicking.
No. You'll be fine. The name of the game is A Dark Room. It's totally free. You can play it in a web browser. You can also get it on your phone for like, I think $2 or something like that.
Okay.
Pretty short. I think it's only like 3 or 4 hours. And I'm just going to keep it simple. Challenge, just beat the game.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's it.
And is this a game where I'm going to be clicking around that stuff?
It's a clicker game.
I'm still so confused by this.
I need to have you play Candy Box 2 as well, or Candy Box, just because they're fun. Right. They're weird games. They're very creative.
All right. Well, we're gonna all learn what a clicker game is next episode.
Yeah.
See you then.
All right. Bye. Bye.
If you love this episode, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or rate us on Spotify. Also, check out our awesome website, pressthebutton.net. You can listen to all of our raps. You can buy a t-shirt. And now you can download free games on there. Well, free game. Drinkman. Download it, play it, love it. All right. See you next time. Bye.